questions arise this time of year, and sometimes I don't answer some of them. I try to answer most of them, and that this year hasn't been too bad as far as getting the answers out, but a lot of questions, same things are asked over and over again. So today we're going to cover a bunch of that stuff. I'm going to try, and also questions at end of each segment. See, these are all my little segments on here that things we're going to touch on and all that. And we're going to go to Google Earth, and we're going to show the areas that we predominantly look for early barley in, and that, and why we look for early barley in those areas. And then it's based upon the weather. So, and we're going to cover all that. You know, we've been tracking the weather since December 1st again, and how much rain every area has gotten, and how it changes from week to week, and then going from there. This has been a phenomenal year for rain in Israel, except for the southern Negev, from the Gaza, southern Gaza, straight right over to the Judean hills. But we'll cover all that stuff too. The reason why, one of the reasons we like to do this, and am doing it, is because we try to download a lot of information that we've learned over the years. I mean, this coming year, I think is my 18th year going and doing the inspections. And each year, you seem to learn something a little more to add to your knowledge of what's there, and the type of a year leading up to it to produce what you have when you get there. Everything has a pattern, and there are some chief patterns that we follow, primarily 3-4 of them, in our expectations as to what we're going to find. For anyone who's looking for a declaration today or anything, that ain't going to happen. It just, we wait till we get to the land, and then we look and see, and then we thoroughly scour, and once the evidence is there, we put it out to everybody so they can make their decision. People sometimes say, well, what are you going to do? Well, if you want to know what I'm going to do, just look at the dates are that we have in the feast. But that isn't why somebody should be doing what they do. They should take all the information they have at their disposal and apply it to all of the patterns in Scripture, et cetera, and then take it from there. You're your own boss. You and your husband, your head. And don't forget your father. So anyway, let me see here. And I think we're recording this, right? If I'm not mistaken, that's what we usually do, because there's a lot of people who aren't able to look at it at this time right now. They have services and all kinds of stuff in that. And that might sound kind of odd to you guys, people who attend regular big type services are looking, but they do. Some of them are former affiliations, and a lot of them in groups that are like sacred name groups, messianic groups, stuff like that. So today, what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to try to make a conscious effort to use Hebrew names. Now, I know that doesn't offend any of you guys, as far as I know, and of course it shouldn't, but some of our brothers and sisters, that's what they do, and it's offensive to them to listen to something otherwise. So become all things, all people, right? So, but anyway, before we go into some of this stuff, let me just, a lot of people keep asking about history here and stuff like that. One of the big questions is, are you on Facebook? No, we're not on Facebook. And of course, most of you guys are out there laughing who know us. It just, I go to 2 Facebook sites because they're public sites, and I check things out on them every once in a while and that. But we don't have a Facebook. We're not on Facebook with our private life or anything else. So I think all our kids are in that, but we wouldn't even know that. So other than if they tell us or somebody else tells us. So, but, so yeah, so we're not on any Facebook or that. The only media that we have is our website and the internet, emails and all that. But the Abib of God site is the one that we use, or Abib of Elohim, whichever way you want to look at it. And of course, that's both of the names on the site. So, and again, no predictions today, nothing like that. But by the end of this meeting, you're probably going to have a pretty good idea of what you're going to be able to find if you follow along with what we're doing. So, and that's kind of the fun in this. It's like a game leading up to it. And there was a time we used to put all this information out. We don't do that anymore. We're going to, from now on, the Zoom meeting before we're leaving, we're going to take care of things like that, conduct the meeting, and go from there. But again, a lot of information today, an awful lot of it. So, and one thing to please keep in mind when we're going through a lot of this information, There are 7 climate agricultural zones in Israel. They're based on a number of things, each one of these zones. And if you ever looked at it's funny, I was talking to somebody yesterday, said, what do they look like? Well, it's hard to, if you ever look at a gerrymandering map that you would see for elections and stuff like that, that's what the growing areas look like, unless you hit the big area of the Negev or something like that. So, and again, there's a lot of rules that we have in place. Linda and I know we're pretty adamant about some of the things. See, we started all of this in our minds, started chewing on all this, and it's funny, I was talking to somebody here recently, and something they were bringing up and talking brought so much back to memory. You know, you forget about things after so many years. But in '96, we started chewing on these things, but we weren't in a position in our minds to do anything about it yet, because there were so many other relevant things we had to relook at, et cetera, and that's what we did. But by about the time of '97, we had a lot of stuff down pat, and that's when we ran into the Bruns and everything else a little earlier than that. And we seemed like we were the only guys in the world in our little circle that knew anything about it, and we're trying to keep a different calendar. So, but that's a little bit of the history behind it and stuff like that. So, but and a lot of people say, well, why do you look where you look, and why do you have to go to Israel? Why can't you use barley from here? Well, we might touch on some of that today. So, but just to bring everybody up to date, let's take a look at a few things here leading up to some of these things. Let's take a look at P1. Now, some of you guys have seen this. Most of you have not. This was taken the beginning of last week, back in February. This is a stock right here, and if you notice right here, this is from Pierre, who's a friend of mine and a brother in Israel, and it just the awns up here. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit on this. There we go. Okay, the awns over here come up to about 70 centimeters. All right, that was already in existence in a field. There's a whole field of growing. By now, that whole field is out of the boot. If you notice on here, is just coming out of the boot, isn't it? Here, let's see if I can do that again. Let me see. Wrong spot. Anyway, let's try it right here. Okay, you can see it just coming out of the boot here, right? But notice the flag leaf and everything else all in here. But this is, see these kernels here? They look nice and plump, don't they? But I can absolutely assure you there is nothing in them. They are stone cold empty, all right? So, but notice how they look. These are green ears, and which is interesting. I've seen some people, this was the day that the new moon was sighted for this month. And I kind of chuckled to myself. I kept thinking, well, you guys who go after the green ears, you better proclaim the beginning of the year, because you got them, you know, and it just, so, and I'm kidding about that. I certainly hope they wouldn't. But they have a different understanding of what we look for. And a lot of them, it's because of their infancy just coming into all of this stuff. So, but that was a pretty good size one right there. And let me get out of here. Let's go over to this one now. Let me go over to here and see if I can remember how to do these things. Now, I don't know how to straighten this picture up here. You guys all know how to do that stuff. I don't know how to do it. So just pretending you're looking sideways. You can see this field, this group right here. Now, notice the stalks here. They are thick. See how thick these things are? See how healthy they are, how big the leaves are? See all the moisture on them? They have been getting a lot of rain. So they thicken up. They do all that stuff first. Now, this is where that other stalk came from. So just imagine looking at that stalk at 70 centimeters. And for you guys who understand all that stuff, I think that's probably about 29 inches, if I'm not mistaken. So you're looking at maybe the top of this being 29 inches right here on this particular one. But notice they're all coming out of the boot. See them here? All this stuff is starting to come out of the boot. And if you saw a picture of the whole field, you'd get a better understanding of that. But I don't have that set up on here. But The reason I'm showing some of these pictures, I might have one here. Let me just look and see. What did I hook up here? Oh, there again, it's the head. That's that close-up of the head there, just to show you what it looks like. But notice in centimeters, from here you go from 54 right up to the last kernel of 64. So you got 10 centimeters in there for that head. Now, more will probably come out of here. See, this is coming out right now. See how this is thick right here, the boot? More is going to come out of there, all right? Now, what's fascinating about these pictures is the location they were found in. This is not one of what you would call the early locations. This is a location in Bet Shemesh, and we'll look at that when we go to Google Earth up here. And we'll look at the elevation of that area, and you'll see the area around. There's a lot of rocky, forested, kind of scrubby areas around, and there's you know, different little elevations all over the place in that. And you're going on your way up into the Judean hills. You're in the foothill. Well, you're a little bit past the foothills there, starting to go up. All right, that's a big deal because remember, elevation, precipitation, and soil quality make a difference on how the barley is going to mature, whether it's going to mature early, whether it's going to mature in the intermediate time or later. Now remember, 7 growing distinct areas that we've established, and so have others scientifically in the country of Israel. Now, does anyone think it's a coincidence that there are 7 weeks, okay, for the harvest, right? I mean, I would hope no one thinks that's a coincidence because it's certainly not a coincidence. That's the way our Elohim have made things, right? And it just, it's there as a witness for us in creation. Remember Romans 1 verses 19 and 20? So we will be without excuse, even as to their it says Godhead, Elohim head if you want to put in there, or their power. Eternal power, it says. So, but there's patterns throughout creation, and that's a wonderful thing to see and understand. And but anyway, so we'll move on a bit here now. So you guys have seen, some of you guys have seen them. Now you've all seen them. Now that was back on, what was that? February, probably around the 4th or the 5th, somewhere around there, if I'm not mistaken. And it just, so look at the stage of growth that was in right there. And remember, that's domestic. And I'm just using that to explain to people some of the intricacies that take place in the growth sequence here. Now, let me just look over here. Let's look for, let's see. Well, you got Zadok's here. This is Zadok's scale. But let's look at the, let me just see. I can't do that, right? I've got to use my little thing here and go like that. Here's your life cycle, all right? Now, here's where you've got heads coming out here. And I'm just trying to get some time frames established here with everyone, because we're going to go to other pictures and that. We're going to go to some other stuff, and we're going to talk about what we look for, what we don't look for, where we look for it, where we don't look for it, etc. And it's all should hopefully come full center. And keep in mind, 7 different climate agricultural areas and 7 weeks to harvest. Always keep that in your focus, all right? So, but notice right here, head emergence 58 days. Interesting, isn't it? Now, keep in mind down here, here's how this all works. Here's your days after emergence, okay? Here's, if you have the growing degree days right here. Now, just because you have 89 days to maturity, 2,260 degrees, I can't read that too well there, of growing degree days, you may not get that kind of growing degree days over some of these periods. So this is going to stretch this out way past 90 days, right? So, and I don't know how familiar most of you guys are with that. You don't have to know that. And it just, but there are keys you do have to know when we go through this. So anyway, so the barley we were looking at right there, head emergence, there you are, 58 days. Now, if everything goes according to the growing degree days, et cetera, even with a couple of little hiccups, it doesn't mention a couple of hiccups, you have this stretch right here, okay? between 80, well, say 90 days and 60 days, and you have like a 30-day stretch. That's a 1 month stretch, okay? Now, we had this back on February 4th, right? So put 30 days into there, add another week and a half for lousy non-degree days, and where are you going to come up? Think about that. I'll let you guys do the math, you know, and it just, this is how you look at things. This is how you try to anticipate what you're going to see in the areas you're going to see in it. And you do that based on the pictures of the barley that you're going to get. Now, if you don't have somebody living in Israel, that's okay. I know Brian Heck, he sent me over a couple pictures the other day and that, and he put them on his site of a fellow living not too far from Tel Aviv. And there was an area there that showed barley that was just coming out of the boot and stuff like that. Well, 2 weeks ago, I saw barley north of him, okay, in a picture that it was already full head, you see? But it was on all stony ground. That's a big thing you have to look out for. That's a no, okay? That's a fake growth stage of barley. And of course, many of you guys understand all that. You've seen it, you know, from all the years. We've learned a little bit more and more every year, and we've gone through. And of course, you use the scripture to tell you what you're actually looking for and where you're looking for it on. Because the parable of the sower tells you what happens. What happens when it falls on stony ground? It comes up quick, right? But it dies because it matures as fast as it can. And we're going to see some beautiful examples today. I'm hoping I can get to all that. Of barley maturing and in a quick time frame and in a not quick time frame. Okay. So anyway, so let's dump this one right here. Now let's take a look at this here. Now some of you guys have seen this picture here. I sent it out to bunches, and I think Brian might have had it up on his site. But this picture is a beautiful picture. Okay. This is down at Ream Junction. And you're going to see in our booklet, right around the corner from where this was. We'll go through that. But there's some fascinating things about this picture. Now, obviously you have a knoll here, right? You have your, what is it, eucalyptus trees, I think here. But you have a knoll here. Now, notice on the top of this knoll, you're getting all the anemones. Now, you got some down over in here scattered around, but notice on the top how many you have, right? Now, notice on the top, all the oats up here, and I can't scroll this picture in because of the way I set it up here, but on the one I have, I can actually scroll it in and look right at each one of these little heads here. So it was actually a really good quality picture. So, but notice over here, see them bowing. Oats is the first grain to bow. Barley is the second. Keep that in your way of thinking, and you're going to always understand barley comes, or oats comes before barley, okay? So now, see these all bowing here? Some of them haven't bowed. These are all, some of these are dropping. The ones that are way over are dropping. The rest are getting up into that position to open up and drop. And we'll get some examples of that, and we'll actually see some on Google Earth here in a little bit too. And it just, but notice something here. Where is the sun? Is the sun over on this side? Absolutely not. How do you know that? First of all, you look at the plants over here. They'll always tell you where the sun shines. Notice the trees here? See the shadows coming over here? So the sun is over here. Now, I would have loved to have seen a picture from the other side of the hill and the little field out there. You'd see some really nice barley, okay? To what stage, I can't tell you. I don't know right that. So I'll know when we get there. But notice on this side here, there's some barley starting to head out here, but notice how young the barley is here. I can tell you 100,000% on the other side of that hill, that barley is going to be a lot more mature than that because it's getting the full sun. That's a really important thing with any type of grain, all right? So that was a fascinating picture there. You can learn a lot from these things. If you do have this picture on your computer in that, because when I switched it over and put it onto this page right here, whatever I did do it, it doesn't let me scroll, so you can't go in on it, all right? So that's a beautiful sight to me. I get excited about that stuff. I don't know about you guys, but now, Let's take a look at something else right here, and I'll address it real quick, but we're not going to dwell on it very long, okay? Do you see this picture right here? Unfortunately, it's a very low quality picture, and when you see it won't scroll when I put it over here. When you do scroll, it gets all blotchy and everything else, and you have all these little dots in that. I guess they call it pixels or something in that. But now take a look at this entirety of this picture and tell me what you see in this picture here. Here comes the arrow. What do you got over there? That's volunteer barley. Look at it. It's headed out. It's tipped over. It's bent. Now, this is in Sterat. This was taken about, I think, the 14th. What's the date today? The 16th? I think it was taken on the 14th. Now, this is what we call the greenhouse effect. And this has really messed up some people on reporting in the past. And most of the people who have been at this 10, 15 years, they know better than to do this kind of stuff, okay? Because if they went there and picked those heads, you're going to see some pretty big heads, but of course they're not going to be all full yet. They just grew with all the rain and the sun. Now, notice what you have back here. You have a concrete wall, right? And then you have concrete and asphalt over in here. This is what you call a greenhouse in here with the heat. It traps it in. Even when the nights get cooler, the heat is trapped into here and still radiates. Thus, you have barley growing crazy, volunteer barley. So, and we're not going to dwell on that, and we're going to go back to this a little later because you do not use greenhouse effect barley to make a determination as to when to start the year. That's a no-no, all right? So let me see what else I've got here. Just a second. I got a lot of stuff, but I want to make sure we're not going to go out of sequence of some of this stuff here. Now, let's take a look at the IMS. Let's just go there, for instance. And it's kind of important to understand, waiting for IMS. There we go. Let's make your full page, right? Can I do that? Look at that. No laughing, guys. So go to Fahrenheit for you guys in England or Europe. And actually, we get hits from, I think we're at, I don't know, maybe 15 different countries right now, just in the past week. This is when all the international inquiries come in and stuff like that. And it just intensifies and right up to through the inspections. Then it goes crazy. We get them from every corner almost of the earth. So even Japan, we get them Japan, South Korea, get them from China. We get them from all these places, okay? And they're checking on the calendar, on the information that's going out. So here we are right now. This is nighttime, right? Okay. Now notice up here, 39, 54, 47. This is all the Golan Heights. This is all your this is very high up here, okay? Here's your mountain ridge through here. See it? Notice the temperatures all through this area here, okay? Now, this is the Jezreel Valley. This is down below into here, okay? This is where the Jordan River Valley comes up and meets the Jezreel Valley. You'll hear us talking about that quite a bit, okay? This is predominantly an early area here as long as it hasn't gotten a lot of rain. Well, it's got a lot of rain this year, okay? Now, what we can look at down here, now you come down into the coastal plain down in here. A lot of barley grows in here. Mostly, there's only a few pockets of domestic barley in here, but there's a lot of barley, and we'll cover that as we go through it. But I'm trying to show something here as to temperature. This is nighttime. Even though it's cold in Jerusalem and cold over here, look at your temperatures down in the heart of the barley country, okay? Barley thrives in those temperatures. Barley germinates at 34 degrees. Not like wheat. Wheat's puppies. It's a puppy thing. It's a fine flour. You can't really call barley fine flour. Maybe some people do, but we'll even show some examples of that later. But this has been predominantly the case throughout the entire last month and a half. It's been really nice weather all down and through here. Down in this area here, we were running into a real problem, and we'll get to that. But I just want to show you relative to the map here. Now, rainfall observations. Let's let it load here. And it's not completely loaded yet. But anyway, because it should pop up here unless I've got it locked in there and something. But anyway, notice what we've got here as far, and this should be in millimeters here, 37 millimeters just north of Tel Aviv. Okay, here 8 at Beit Dagan. But notice right over here with the Beit Dagan, you'll see off on the little thing come down the shelves, 139% for the same period normal. Now the same period normal is from for the month, and this is when they started they take their measurements from August 1st, right? And here we are up now, and a show right beside it. And for you guys from this part of the world, it looks a little different. The 1st is not January. That's the first day of the 8th month, August, okay, off to the side of it. Now, they've received 108% of their annual normal already to date. That's a lot of rain, okay? And if you notice there, they're at 139% of the 30-year average. The 30-year average started in, I think, 1981 and runs up through 2010. Yes, that's the recent one. That's just been updated just this past year. So their averages are showing really high, because those were years when there wasn't a tremendous amount of water in a lot of them, okay? Now, if you go back up here to forecast, we'll look up here, and it shows you for the next bunch of days here, and then you go over to here, it's going to show you what this is the best site to go to too. There is not a better site. These guys they're right on, okay? Now, if we look out to Monday, it's still chance isolated thunderstorms, unseasonable cold, and you keep going unseasonable cold. And you go back over to here to Wednesday, and additional, there's a slight rise right here, and now you get an additional rise over here, so you're coming back up to seasonal. Now, what's probably going to happen after this, we're going to get a hot period if things stay according to patterns. It's not a prediction, that's just looking at the patterns, and that's one of the patterns. There's 3 of them based on the way the weather has been going this year that we've been able to see over the past 18 years, all right? So this is what we look for in a lot of this. Now, this is important in many instances, because what we do is we track, I do anyway, I track the weather each week from December 1st right through until now, okay? And I'll do it until we leave, until we're going. Every single area started out in December 1st way above average, like in Hein HaHoresh, up between Tel Aviv and Haifa, they started at 211%. Tel Aviv, 171%. And see, they were still getting rain before that too. There was such a phenomenal amount of rain that everything germinated everywhere across the country, everywhere. Now, if you go up into the north and stuff like that, you'll see stuff is still stunted, but it has to be. That's the way it is. That's one of the last areas that you would look for in the 7 weeks if it's a normal year. That's what would happen, and I'll show you reasons why here shortly when we go to that. Now, Jerusalem, they started out, Jerusalem started out at, well, that was the 7th. I missed one here. I missed 12-1. Tel Aviv was 92%. The North Coast Plain, 148. Negba, 111. Besor Farm, 112. Beersheba, 163%. Jerusalem, 86%. Said Eliyahu, 99%. And Nir HaEmek, that was 84%. And I'll show you these areas when we go through. Now, they've all done pretty good. Here's where we are today, just so you guys can get a handle on some of this stuff, okay? Tel Aviv area, 139%. North Coast Plain, 124. That's this area right up in here, right in this area, actually, right here, 124%. Negba is right down over here, all right? That area is 108%. Besor Farm, right down over here, that area is 68%. Now, that might sound bad, but that's actually good, okay? Because as of 2 weeks ago, they were only running at 50%, and there was going to be a die-off. There's no question about it. There was not. That's all sand down in this whole region down in here. A sandy loam, it would not hold the moisture, all right? But we just got hit in the last week with a lot of rain across this area right through here. That is just a wonderful thing, okay? Beersheba, 72%, all right? Jerusalem's at 101% right here. Seyd Eliyahu right over here, that's at 135%. And Nir HaEmek right up and through here, that's at 134%. So that's telling us all kinds of information. When you have a lot of rain, what happens? The barley head is restricted in growth till later on. It uses everything it has to grow as high as it can, to reach as high as it can in the air towards the sun. It's almost like the guys at the Tower of Babel, right? So anyway, it tries to reach towards the sun to get more. That's what's genetically built into it from creation, all right? So, and you'll get big leaves, big flag leaves, a lot of tillers, a lot of everything, just growing like crazy, right? As soon as the rain stops a little bit and it hits a certain point in the domestic barley, it's actually designed to get to a certain point, it stops, then the head will come out, all right? It's a little bit different with the volunteer barley, the wild barley, but it's still a lot of the same principles. So anyway, a lot of these areas here, you're going to have a lot of barley, and it's going to be really big barley, and some of that barley, when it grows, and if it's got good soil, is going to be up over your head. And we'll see some pictures of that too. But all these areas, this area through here, no, not the Jezreel Valley, but the area up and through here, jump the Jezreel Valley and come down through the mountainous area down and through here. Well, you won't find barley down south of here anyway. Actually, you won't find it south of here. That's your barley, that's your growing zone after that. Nothing grows down there. I mean, you get some weeds in that, but you don't even find a lot of sheep down there, no Bedouins or anything. So, but for you guys who have been there, you understand what I'm talking about. You know, it's just a wasteland. So maybe in the future it won't be. We all know that. And maybe in the past it wasn't either. But so let's just jump out of this one here now. Okay, now, and I don't think I have to go to the Zadok scale, do I? Well, you know what? Let's just go there once real quick. Before we get into all this, in case some of you guys don't understand what we're talking about now, here's head emergence right here. That's Zadok's 5, right? And head emergence complete. After that, you go into flowering. We'll look at some stuff about flowering and stuff like that. But that's an important stage here. Once this comes out, things take off after that, okay? And there's a time frame for each of it. We won't go into that at the moment, but let's look here. I think it's time to hit, well, let's go down to here. Some of you guys, well, that's the wrong one. So let's go over to this one here. There we go, right here. Now, just for a lot of people's information, these are the years during our inspections that we have declared for our understanding, normal years and intercalated years. These first 3 years right here, this year I went by myself, and then I teamed up with Nehemiah and a couple guys because they needed another vehicle, and that's water under the bridge and all that. But this is our learning curve in here. But these were correct though, but it was a learning curve, and we had established a whole bunch of rules beforehand before this, because I think we were in communication, I think, for since 2000 or something like that, or 99 or whatever. Maybe those guys know. I don't keep track of stuff like that. But anyway, what Bridget is suggested that we do is go back to these years, and she has a big spreadsheet that goes across, and put in all the different characteristics we saw in that year, right down through figs, through grapes, birds migrating, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The lambs being born, et cetera. Were they born? Were they born? Have they been born for a month or two, et cetera, et cetera? But remember, you need all those things for Passover, right? That's all part of the plan. You don't got no lambs, you got no Passover. And the lamb has to be big enough. See, what does it say? How old does a lamb have to be before you separate it from his mother? I'll leave that as a little quiz for you guys. Maybe we can talk about that later. But so anyway, that's what we have as far as the years go. And we'll get, it won't happen for a little bit now because we're working on another project right now, the Plan of Salvation and that. And that'll be coming out pretty quick, right up through to up to the start of Jacob. But from angelic creation right straight through, focusing on patterns. All these patterns have been in there. And if you are thinking about them and you look for them, you find them in the scriptures, and then you start compiling them. So, and that's actually what we're doing. So, but anyway, this is just a little tidbit of what's going to be coming up. All right. Now, let's go. Let's do our birdies one more time. Let's do birds here once, just to get through some of the stuff we go to all the time, right? Or I go to it. I don't know about everybody else. Okay, here's our bird portal. All right, and we always want to make sure we click on English here. Even if you have it on there, you do it, because otherwise you're going to be having a little hard time there. Now, what do we see here? So there are people who will think that these are white storks, right? So let's just go in and take a look at all the galleries. These were just uploaded, by the way. They weren't there yesterday, so I think all galleries is going to come on, right? Oh, there we go. Great white pelicans. Let me see if I can. My computer is real slow for some reason. Yeah, well. Image gallery, recent uploads. Here we go. So let's go to this one here first. Now, if you look at that, if you didn't know what a white stork, all of its features were, you'd say, whoa, white storks. No, no, no. Notice the size of the bill on here and the little stumpy neck, okay? If you look at a white stork, the white stork's neck comes all the way out here, then it's got a pointier bill. This is a pelican bill here, see? And if you notice how they're flying, this guy right here, see how they got the kink in their neck? See how it kicks up and the head goes out like that? But they got the same looking wings and everything, but notice the size of the body too. And their legs are real close in here. Not with a white stork. White storks hang back out a lot farther, okay, and that. And you guys have looked at all those, but see, these are the things you look for. Now, there's been some people who have been saying they're seeing a lot of white storks and that, but most of them are being mistaken as great white pelicans because there's a bunch of them that have come up. Now, the big migration hasn't come up yet, but there's enough that hang around up around the Sea of Galilee, and you get up into the marshes and that, up into the Hula Valley and that, and they're hanging, excuse me, they're hanging around there right now. So, and actually, I don't know if you could hear it, but we're hearing me. I put the little thing back on the microphone there, but so these are interesting pictures, but these are the things we follow. Now, there is a small group of white storks that actually hang and nest in the Hula Valley. So some people see them every now and then and that. And there's people who are, one guy reported 600 of them he saw. I mean, it just, but he owns some bed and breakfast there. And I think I've talked to you guys about that before. So, you know, let's get the Europeans in. The storks are here, you know, and they're not. It's just people are people, right? So anyway, let's take a shot up here to Google Earth. We'll get to the meat and the potatoes of a lot of this right now. But again, I wanted to, let's see what we got here. There we go. Excuse me. And let's get back over to the other neck of the woods here. Okay. Now, what I like to point out right here now, see how this is tilted where the north is up here? We're looking at a configuration in a way. See that you got to look to the North Pole over here, right? Because you have the axis, okay? So, but we can straighten that up as we get over to here. So let's get into here a bit and let it load up. I got so many things opened on here, it's taking it a bit to load, so, but we'll keep going. While we're doing that, let's straighten north up here. We'll put north where it's not supposed to be. There we go. Let's just take a look at this from a bird's eye view way up. Let's get you down here a bit, okay? I think most of you folks are familiar with this. This is the Sea of Galilee. Here's the Dead Sea over in here. And you go back up into here. And then you have Lebanon up here, and you got Syria here. And this is the Golan right in through here. Here's Haifa. Now, this is the Jezreel Valley coming down through here. And we'll get back up to that in just a minute here. But what I want to do is, so we're looking at this right here. Now, remember I was pointing out the temperatures, how they were all good down and through here, even at night. There hasn't been any frost, no nothing even close to it, okay? So let's go back into here. And let's go back over. Here's Sterat right here. This is Gaza. That's a no-no. You don't go there. But this is Sterat. This is where they used to shoot the little bombs over when they had their little ones. Now they got some that can go a lot farther than that. They're little rockets. So this area right here. Now notice the agriculture all around here. It's just stunning. There's a little bit over here in Gaza, but nothing compared to what you have in Israel. Okay. And there's quite a few areas in there that we can look at, but we'll keep coming down here. You know what? Actually, let's go right up to here. Let's go right up to. Here's Ashkelon. Okay, here you go. This is Route 232 right here, all right? In most years, this is the first place we start. We take 232. This road here goes all the way down to the south end of Gaza on the Israeli side of the border. This is absolute barley alley all the way down. You can't miss finding barley in this place. It's just, like, for instance, let's just take a look at the picture here. What do we got here? That's all barley that's in behind there, dead and all that already. This is a picture that was taken later. Let's see what we got here. This is a walkway in through here, but in this area, that's actually not even in this area. It's down the road a ways. Somebody misplaced the picture. So, but this area right in here is usually our first stop. You can pull over, see a little roadway in here. It's a little spot, and you can walk around in that. There's barley all over the place here. Good representations of it. These hills over here, this is always early domestic barley, all in through here. You've seen those pictures, a lot of us, in the past when you've looked at the Abib reports. This is all a hill in here. All this area is hilly, and it starts up and around here and moves its way down like this. And as we've pointed out and shown so many times in the past, barley will always start to, if you're on a hill, will always mature at the top first and work its way out. People say, well, if barley is maturing in a spot, can't you go in and get it? No, 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 no. You can't do that. Barley becomes very brittle. And, of course, if you're waiting until it becomes very brittle, you're having a problem. But anyway, the barley, let's just say the top of this hill right here is maturing. It'll start in here, and within 4 to 5 days, the whole hill here will turn color. But it'll start on a high spot in any one of the fields. In a flat area, that varies. It can be closest to the road, but you don't want to take any of that. That's bad stuff. That's greenhouse effect, okay? So, but this is all wild barley in here. There's wild barley all through all these areas, all the way down here. Let's see if we can get a couple of pictures here. That's all dead barley all along there. This is taken later in the year, you see. And that, again, some of these leaves are all getting prickly up here. It looks like a drought. So this looks like some old oats right here. See it? Isn't that fascinating? So, and the oats, their husks stay real. They'll stay there until animals knock them down or until winter actually shows up. So, but so we don't need to see that anymore. Now, we keep going down this road right here, following it along. Okay, singing a song, right? Any area along here, like for instance, I don't know what we got here. Let's just take a look. There will be barley in here, but that's not a good example. There's all kinds of them. Let's see what we got here. And I'm doing this to show you guys. That's the bus stop. They're not going to show us one there. So you keep going down. All this here is all barley. Anywhere you find areas like this that don't have agriculture in them, you're going to find wild volunteer barley. I mean, it's usually just all over the place. See how all these areas here, that's all going to be barley. And you can drive into all these areas too. It could take a long time when you're doing a barley search, and we don't want to have the folks there. So anyway, keep going down through here. Now you come down to Sderot, right? A lot of real good areas here. Keep coming down. Well, actually, we're going to be going this way over here. There's some nice areas down through here. This is a good spot right here. And because you get a mix of domestic and on the work fields, and then you get the volunteer. So you can compare them, and it teaches you an awful lot of stuff. So when you do that, you know, so anyway, so here's the road coming down through here. We're going down. Let me pull out a bit here. There's Gaza right there, just so you could see what we're looking at here, all right? And then you come down, you take the swing right here, you come down the road. Now we're getting into wild barley capital of Israel, okay? You guys have heard us talk about, in that picture we showed before was Rahim Junction. That's it right here. This is Rahim Junction right here, all right? See all of these areas in here? They're absolutely loaded with barley. All these are, and then of course barley's grown in a lot of these fields too. Now, they grow some wheat down here, but primarily they don't grow wheat in the sense that the barley will mature quicker and it's more hardier. See, if the rain shuts off down here, the barley's going to last longer than the wheat will. That's just a common fact. Let's just take a look here and zoom in on some of these spots. Excuse me. We'll probably look at the booklet a little later, and you'll see on the cover of the booklet, you'll see Rick on there. This is where he is standing right there, and you'll see how much wild barley is there. But again, it's all over the place. Let's take a look at a couple of these little pictures here. What do we got here? Oh, look at that. So this is all barley growing here, but notice what we got here. See the oats? See how the oats is always, your rule of thumb is 3 weeks. Your oats is, well, depending on weather, but a rule of thumb is 2.5 to 3 weeks ahead of barley, okay, as far as maturity goes. Again, that can be affected by certain climate conditions and stuff like that. But that's just to give you an idea. Now, these are all little row walkways in through here. Now, once again, barley all over. This is all barley. See it? It's all wild barley in through here. It's everywhere. And he was there before the barley was actually mature, whoever this guy is. And anytime you find a tell like this here, there'll be barley on it, but we don't take that because that's kind of cheaters, you know. So, I mean, you can, I guess, but let's take a look over here. Once again, you got barley. See the barley growing in here? There's all barley growing, but notice what comes first, the anemones. The anemones always come before the barley does. The barley will be like grass in most cases when you have your anemones. Unless it's a year we have had a tremendous amount of rain and some really good weather. Then they're going to rock it up. Everything's going to rock it up, and it'll be a big jumble of things. That's one of the patterns that we found. Let's take a look over here. Nice shots of anemones in that. And let's take a look over here. Once again, you got anemones over here. This is the last stages of them. Look at the barley all in here. See that? That's all oats there. See that? That's all oats. See how much taller the oats is? It's all dropping, okay? And it just, so these obviously were taken by the same guy almost at the same time. Let's go back over to here. Well, that's barley over in through here too, but notice the anemones. So the time of year he took this was a perfect stage to, and I think it's the same guy in most of these. He did a lot of walking. He's kind of like us. So anyway, these areas all in through here, and you go across the street over here along the creek here, along the river, same thing. This is all barley in through here. Notice the trees here, the eucalyptus trees. That's the same tree that we showed you over there. That picture was probably taken, let me think, not right there. It would be either right here or right over here, because you have a whole bunch of, let's see, right here. Let's see what we got up there for eucalyptus. There's eucalyptus in here. But notice all your barley now. See this over in here? Those are all heads of barley. See them all? Those are heads of barley there. And it just, notice the length of them there in that. So anyway, so this is your primary area here. Now, as we go out of here a bit, we can still go down south here, okay? There are still some areas we can hit down in here. All along this area here where you've got your creek in here, if you can get in and take a look, See, you got barley everywhere. It's all volunteer. And these aren't good pictures. If you go off, you'll find nice flat areas with barley all over the place. So let's take a look down here. When you see that much water in there, you know you're too early. Or they're getting one crazy. Look at this. This is all barley growing here. And you have, see the oats right there? See that? That's wild oats. See, they've already dropped right there, right? Okay. Let's see if we got some more in there. I can't zoom in on this thing, so I don't think I can. No. So, oh. We don't need to hear from him, right? Oh, there we go. There's a much nicer picture. Oh, you betcha. That looks really, really nice. So, good one. Very good. There's barley there. See the husks all browned out. They're already dropped. Not barley, I mean oats. You know, same thing there. Oats dropped. Okay. After a while, you get to see these things in your sleep. So let's go back. Oh, back to Google Earth. There we go. I know it's scary having me running one of these things. So anyway, so all in this area here now. For a lot of you guys who were around back in the 2002 through 2005, a little bit in 2006, you heard a lot about Ophakeen in this area here. Now, there's barley to be found here, a wild barley, but you have so much domestic in here, it's just stunning. It's just, and we cut across here, and we don't spend a lot of time here anymore because not for what we're looking for. And here's Beersheba. And of course, here's Omer. Imagine that, right? A friend of mine used to live there. Doesn't live there anymore. But now you're starting to get into, notice how the ground is here. Now, I'm sorry. We were supposed to do something over here, and I didn't do it. So let's zoom in. Let's look at Ream Junction right here. Now, if you look over in the right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see the eye elevation, and then you'll see the actual elevation. It's 145 feet above sea level. That's important, okay? And this is an area that gets baked in sun. So here you have 145. Let me move this around. Let me go over to here. Now you're 213 feet. See it? Now we come back over to here, 274 feet. Now notice all this stuff in through here. 173, 131, 158. This barley in here matures quicker than the barley 100 feet above it. That's just a fact. Volunteer barley. That isn't with domestic. Okay, that pretty much has its triggers in it to do it at certain times. That's one of the reasons we don't use it. But I do look for other people because they use it. So, and it just, if that's what they want to use, fine. I can assist them in that. So, right hot, bad place. Stay out of there. Don't want to go anywhere near it. Matter of fact, there's a lot of problems there right now. That's an illegal Bedouin city right there. Big place, you know. So these areas up in here. There are some areas that you can look for wild barley up in here. You can go and see all this stuff in here. You're going to find wild barley. Let's see what this picture shows us right here. That ain't showing us wild barley. That ain't probably where the picture, well, let's see what we got up in here. Nothing. This area right in here, though, I know there's quite a bit of wild barley right through there. But, and you don't, if you're looking for barley, that's not one of the primary areas. If you've already done your search everywhere else, that's great. You know, you can take a peek over and through there. Now, here we were talking about earlier where Pierre sent me pictures from Bet Shemesh, or Beth Shemesh, whatever you want to call it, or Bayet Shemesh, it doesn't matter to me. And notice what you got around here. See, there's fields all around here, okay? But notice the terrain, right? Let's take a look at some of these right here. Notice your terrain there. You're up into the foothills here, okay? Now, let me just put on this field here. Now, look at your elevation over here again in the right-hand corner. Look at how far up we've come. We're at 849 feet now. And what stage was that barley in already? The domestic. Fascinating, wasn't it? And we use that as a rule of thumb, just so you all know. So, now let's go over to this right here. Let's just take a peek at that picture there. Oh, it's just showing us the sky. Lots of pictures. Let's see what we got up here. Nope. But see, this gives you an idea of what you're in. but they do have fields, just like they did during the time of our Savior and all the time before that, way up top here. And we'll show you some of them up there too. But you got a lot of areas in here you can't grow anything in, okay? Although they have taken over a lot of grapes have been planted that south of here a bit, et cetera, et cetera. But keep that in mind now. So that barley was that mature, that domestic barley, right here in this area at Beth Shemesh, okay? And let me go back out again. Let me show you the relevancy of the area here, okay? Here's Jerusalem right here, okay? Now, it's not exactly a hop, skip, and a jump, but you could probably, in a really good day, going through, because you're in the mountains here. You'd have to go through some of these little valleys here. You could make it to Jerusalem, okay? But there's a reason why there were 48 cities around the country for the Levites, right? I mean, were they in these 48 countries? And remember, those countries went over to here too. Because remember we had, if we look over here, we had Gad, we had Reuben, and we had half of Manasseh over here. And their territory went all the way back over as far as you can see, just like it was promised to Abraham. But they lost it all, okay? So, and because Abraham was promised what? From Euphrates all the way down to the Great Sea and up north to past Damascus and all the way down to what? The Nile. So that hasn't come to fruition yet. It will though. So, but anyway, let's go back over to here again, just for some more relevancy in some of these areas here. So now let's take a look at shoot all the way up to Tel Aviv here. Now, Tel Aviv, you know, Hill of Barley, Tel of Barley. This is where the airport is and everything up here. And the first thing you see when you fly in is when you're coming in. But notice how there's fields all through here. Anywhere they can plant something, if there ain't a house on it, and if it can actually grow something, they put fields in. So a lot of these places, you'll find barley all through them, okay? All the way up the coast. See, as we go up a little farther now, and Tel Aviv is just massive area in here. Everywhere along this area up and through here, see where you got the fields in through here? These can all be checked. Of course, what you're going to find up there in a lot of them is barley that's really got thick stalks and it's a delayed head just because of the amount of the rain that they've been getting, okay? So let's go back over to here now. For you guys, what we usually do, when we go to the north, I stay out of the mountain areas here, out of Nablus and all these crazy places, Jenin and all that. Don't go near them. You're asking for trouble, okay? And we don't want to tempt our creators, right? It's just not going to happen. So, but anyway, when we go in, we cut through Jerusalem. We bypass it. Actually, there's a bypass now. And I thanked Father for that bypass, I'm telling you. So, but anyway, there's the road that goes down, all the way down through here. And let's see, there was infamous Alon, okay? So you go down and through here, it'll take you all the way down. There's folks who actually look at this stuff for barley and say it's okay. Now look at this stuff. It's wasteland. It's that Ein Mabua. Let's see, can I get the Ein Mabua here? Did we already get to it there? Oh, there we go, Ein Mabua. Now, I'm just trying to show you on an angle here. This is a big area down and through here that has been used in the past for people saying that we have Abib barley. Unfortunately, we don't because this is the greenhouse effect down in here. And I'll show you some pictures of that area later. And it's all rocky and stony. And I mean, try to put a sickle to work in there. There's no way you possibly can. So we call that goat grass. And that's a term that we've coined for areas that only the goats and the sheep go to get to the wild barley. So here you come down, you're down in here, you're coming up through the Jordan Valley, all the way up through here. If you don't have water from about this point down, nothing grows. But you'll see there's all kinds of greenhouses, beautiful, lush orchard type things, vineyards and all that, but they're all covered because the sun bakes them, and they're all watered out of the Jordan River. Which is bringing up a problem. But anyway, you get up into this area right up in here. Notice where you'll start to see, now over in here, all these fields are, this is Jordan over here. This is not Israel, okay? It should be, but it isn't. So anyway, that's my only political statement for the day. So, but as you get up to Mahola, here you start to have stuff that actually gets natural rain. All right, that's important. This whole area in through here, this is the convergence of the Jezreel Valley. Let's bring it down here a bit, and the Jordan Valley. So you have mountains here. Here's Afula. You have mountains here. This is the Gilboa Mountains. That's where actually you can go up there. We have a couple of spots that we actually can get it. We go up to on there. You don't want to go to Jenin. Excuse me. Here's the Gilboa Mountains right here. Let's just get back in there a bit. Farquhar and all those places. Yep. So, and this should be. Let's see the height right here. Right here we're at 11,031 feet. Okay. Now that's up on top. Let's go back over to here now. There's Beit Shan. That's the best falafel shop in the entire world over there, falafel heaven. So I know, Brian, you're going. You are forbidden to take Todd there. So anyway, he has to earn his falafel. So let's go over to these areas right here. Because Seed Eliyahu, and this is not spelled right. It should be spelled different. This is the new spelling, the new Hebrew. It should be spelled with the old. Let's just take a look right here in these fields. Now look over at your little elevation thing there again. What does that say? 810 feet below sea level. That's a shock to a lot of people. Below sea level. This entire region in here gets sun and water. Not as much as you get in other places, but it gets enough. See the agriculture in here? You know, here's the mountains on the one side. Here's the mountains over here on this side. All right. You have mountains back up over here. See them? Back up and through here. Strings of mountains. Okay. Taking you back up when you to go to the Sea of Galilee up there, the Kinneret, as modern type folks call it. So, but this whole area, all in through here, you can just about drive off of any road, even along any one of the domestic fields, and you're going to find areas that have good barley in them. All right, so that can be an adventure. Now, there's so much water. Excuse me, just a second here. There's so much water that has come down in this area right now. Remember we were looking at that? Right now, Seed Eliyahu, which is right here, where the little hand is, that's running at 135% above the 30-year average. That's massive. That's a lot. They haven't gotten anything like this in a long, long time. So we're really excited about what we're going to find and pattern all that and putting it into our little repertoire of understanding on this year. So we have that area up in there, really, really good area. All right. But I doubt we're going to find anything. It would be nice to find something there that would be Leviticus 2:14 by Passover. That would be wonderful. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not counting on it. I think most of you understand from what we've covered already, our hotbed is going to be right across over in through here somewhere, okay, and right in through here. That's going to be our hotbed. So for anyone watching this who's going to be going, and I know there's going to be a bunch of people watching this, they won't come on now. They will come on later, and people who actually conduct the searches, that's fine. We put this out. I don't care who it is. As long as the proper information gets out, that's what counts. So the question has been asked to me a couple times. So what are you looking for when you go to Jerusalem or go to Israel? I'm looking for a minimum Leviticus 2:14 by the end of the 12th month. Well, people will start jumping and screaming, whoa, that's not the standard we use. That's right. That's not the standard we use, but it's the standard that our Karaite friends use and other people use who listen to the Karaite inspections and that. And if I find that, I point it out where it is so that everyone can go there and look at themselves. Okay, that I share this stuff, and I do that. That's what we do, right? And it just we do that without any animosity or anything. So yes, but that's not the standard that we use, that I use personally. And I know a lot of you guys don't use that. We have to have it so that it's some folks by Wave Sheaf Day, some folks by Passover, and I like to technically find it by the 10th of the month, and I could go and explain all that, but if someone has a question on it later, I will, but not at this time right now. So now, if we look back up into here we go back up through this area. Now there are some pretty good areas, there are some areas right up in here, north of Beit Shan, up and through here that have some barley in it, some good wild barley. But the problem is it's gotten a lot of rain and it's north. I mean, the elevation, let's take the low one right here. This is 671 feet below. Now let's just go up to here. What do we got here? That's 276 feet above. See that? This is a little tiny country. Notice the drastic difference just in those two little areas. All right. You can drive that in about, well, if the road was straight, you could drive it in about 5 minutes to 8 minutes going back up and through if it was a road going up. But the roads go all over zigzag because of the terrain here. Let's just see. Poirier Eilat, that's where I think Becca lives. As a matter of fact, I noticed, but now let's notice the elevation there, 493 feet. Okay. So now compared to the area we look down at Seyd Eliyahu, you take that 400 and say 500 feet here. Okay, it's 493 here. You take that and you add it on to that 800 feet. So what do you have? You have 1,300 foot difference. The barley grows all different from there to there and all the way in between. So those are important things to understand, all right? So, but now, this year we'll take a scoot up the Golan because Chance has never been up there, and there is, this whole area is, all these hills right here, they are absolutely just covered in barley, okay? But it's barley that's up at a pretty good height. Look at it, we're 553 feet up here. But we'll cut along and through here. But all these areas, we've scoured all of these areas, everywhere up and through here, all the way back up. Let's blow it out a bit here. All the way along on through to Syria here, Quinatiria, you've heard about that. That's where a lot of the crazy stuff just happened. And it just, there's the border there. But as long as they let us go down a road, we used to go down everything. But we don't spend a lot of time up here anymore because you're just not going to find it. Now, you have your Hula Valley up in here. But the problem is, where are we for elevation here again now? 212 feet. This area in here can have some, but this is where you have a lot of the swampy areas up in here, and this is where you have a lot of migrating birds come in. You've seen, if you've seen some of our presentations before, we've shown them with all the white storks coming in and the different types of birds there at that time. So for anyone doing their barley searches, those are the main areas, but concentrate down here. This is your concentrate this year. That's my opinion. And it just, why? Because of the lack of water, okay? And because of the elevation and the temperatures. Remember we looked at the temperatures? A lot of these areas up here, Jerusalem and all through here, they've gotten down into the 30s at nights, okay? In different segments since December. And that's cold. So let's just zoom in. Let's just zoom in up here. There's Jerusalem right there. Let's see if we can bring in, there's a lot of wild barley up there, but keep in mind that wild barley, where are we? It's not going to let me take a look at a lot of these. There's Tekoa. Hebron. Let's go over here by Hebron and zoom in a bit. Okay. Now, see over in this area, see these here? This is all geographical terracing all through here. All through here. This is pretty steep stuff, but notice you have little pockets all growing in here. And of course, we know that to be true because we know the whole story about Naomi and Ruth, right? And that was right outside of Hebron. So, and of course, a lot of the areas where they built houses on here, that used to be agricultural areas. So I'm not supposed to say that, right? But we do have dominion. So anyway, now let's take, that's pretty much it on that right there. Okay. So what we'll do is, let's just take a little break here. I'll click out of this, and I'll click out of this. Let's just see here. Actually, I can stop share. All right. Now, what we can do is, Bridget, if you want, at this point right now, let's do some questions if we can, because that might lead to some of this other stuff and why we do what we do at all these different places. So if anyone has any questions, I can babble a lot and sometimes it's a little confusing.
Okay. So I guess the way we're going to do questions is if someone has a question, you should be able to go to the Zoom bar at the bottom, and there should be either under managed participants, or it might be right there. You can there's a little designator to raise your hand. If you click that raise your hand, I'll see it on my end on the participant list, and I will unmute you so you can talk and ask your questions. So I'm looking for hands to go up. And if you're having problems finding it, you can also chat me. There's a chat option down at that bottom bar as well.
Yeah, we'll give it just a second. And if nobody has anything, then what we'll do, we'll go on to a couple other things now. Actually, we'll pull up the booklet and address a lot of the things in the various locations with the booklet. Mm-hmm.
And so far, I don't see anyone raising.
Okay, well then let's go right back over, right? Let me get out of here. No, I don't want to do that. Let's just cancel. Let's just go down over to here. Now, I got to go to screen sharing again, don't I? Because I don't think you can see the stuff on my screen, right?
No, you need to share. Yeah, thanks.
Can you see that now?
Yep, we can see your Word document with the list of links.
Let me see if it's still linked all up there and everything in that. What do we got here? No, I'm going to have to hook that one up again. No. There we go. Okay, let's go on the big thing here now. This is the booklet we have on the website. I think we have it in Hebrew names. I think we have it in just regular English type stuff. And I think we still have a Spanish version on there, but I don't know if the Spanish version has been updated to what these are right here. So if anyone can do that, that would be helpful. But here's where, remember I told you where we'd see the picture of Rick at Ream Junction or Rahim Junction? This is the side of that little hill here. See the barley? This is all wild barley here. Notice the little trees there? See them? That's all wild barley in there. The whole area is just covered in it, all right? So, but if we go down through here, we'll get down. I just want to scoot into a couple of pictures on here and explain some of these things. Now, here we have, now keep in mind, this is domestic barley right here. But to show you the difference, here you have a 2-row, see that one there on the right, and here you have 6-row. And a lot of people use it. That's why we include stuff like this in it. And it just, not trying to tell everyone you got to do what we do. Now, you guys have seen a lot of these pictures before, but this is the wall going around in Jerusalem there, around the old city. Barley grows right out of it. Barley grows, this is all wild barley. It grows everywhere. I mean, I could show you all kinds of pictures, but see, we put these in a long time ago so people will get the understanding of stuff now. Now, here's the amount of olives here, and notice amongst all these olive trees here, it's all barley growing. Barley and olives. I mean, it's so poetic, isn't it? When you think about it, the oil from the barley and the grain and being ground up and oil, that frankincense, oh, it's just amazing. I just love it. So, but anyway, now, here we go over here. This is barley coming out of the boot here. See it? It's coming out of the boot. This is coming out of the boot too. This barley has been out just a bit. Now see all these little things here? Those are florets. They're flowering. The barley is flowering as it comes out. Okay? In other words, it's making itself ready so it can be able to produce itself. Let's put it that way. So now here's a field here. Notice in this field here, let's see, do that. I'll mess that right up if I do that. Notice all the awns up here. See them all? These came out earlier, all right, than some of these others. That's a little knoll in the field. A matter of 1 foot makes such a difference because the water drains off that first into the lower spots, okay? And that spot starts to mature first because the water's leaving. As soon as the water starts to leave, that plant gets frantic into producing a head and getting to a place where it can reproduce itself. That's nature, okay? But it's also a very good pattern that if you're looking, look for things like that, okay? Because in certain years, it can make a tremendous difference. Of course, we have Zadok scale on there again. Now, here's green ears, right? Notice inside of them, there's absolutely nothing. Yet you got a husk. And this is volunteer wild. So that's why this is a little smaller right now. Remember the ones we showed from Pierre's pictures there? It showed it just coming out of the boot, and it showed it nice and big and plump and everything. Well, there's still nothing in it. So that's why we don't use green ears. This would, in some years, make you a month early, sometimes almost 2 months early, depending on what type of year it was, which is not good. So here's what you want to look for, dough, okay? See this right here? That's a piece of the wild barley. Look at how plump that little son of a gun's got now. That's filled up to its max with starches. As soon as it maximizes out on starches, it starts to dry. If it's got really good weather, it'll dry real fast. If it's just average weather, you're looking anywhere from 15 to 20 days. But if you get Shirav conditions, this thing right here will dry out in a matter of days. We've seen it in a matter of 4 days, 3 to 4 days, actually dry out that much. So what a lot of people would have done back then is when it gets to its physiological maturity, they would reap the field and put it into sheaves. Now, why would they do that? Think about it. Because the heads wouldn't fall off. They wouldn't break. They haven't dried yet. They're ready to be dried. They're not green, okay? You cut them when they're green, there's nothing in there. But the plant's already started to turn color, all right? And you check the heads, and if the heads are fine, if they're plump like these right there, then you go right ahead and you start your harvest. And you start harvesting it as long as you have already done the wave sheaf offering. But again, why do you think you had 48 Levite cities? What did the Levites do? Sit there and drink beer and wine all day long? Of course not. They were there to bring whatever needed to be brought to where? To Jerusalem, to the temple. You know, and they were there to educate, to help. They know, and they knew in their areas all over Israel what the earliest fields were. They all knew it. They would know it, and they would watch them, and that's when they would know a rough idea when the year was going to change, and they'd take that up. Now, some of them are a good 4-day ride away, right? Well, in 4 days after you've already harvested that stuff and you've put it in the sheaves, 4 days after that, when it's drying off the root and in the air and the sun, that is going to be hard dough. Some people call it caramel, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. It's just hard dough. You won't be able to split it with your finger, okay? So now, here's the famous Ein Mabua. Now, obviously, this is not an area you would go to find barley that is representative of our Savior, would you? Not a chance. If you look over in here, this is a fascinating little picture. See all the barley here? It's dead. It died before it matured. Notice the oats right here. The oats is just opened up. Everything died. Why? Because of lack of water. It hits the rocks and the stone and goes off and it's gone. Except for what? The weeds. So, wonderful lessons. All these things we've learned over the years, you know. Of course, these are talking about some of the areas in the Negev where you just don't go to. Or not the Negev, but in Jordan Valley, you don't look for anything there. Here we have, this is volunteer barley right here. See it? 2 different types, by the way. So notice right here, this is a piece over here. Well, look at this one here. See how plump these little son of a guns are? Notice the top's gone. When they get to this stage, if you touch them, the top will fall right off. They always mature from the center of the plant the center of the head first. Then it goes this way and that way, okay? And this one is a really good representative of a very, very hard dough. This is caramel. This one here wasn't, okay? Notice this came from this one. You can't crack this one. You can't cut it with your nail. See the nail mark on it? The nail mark on it? Pushed it right in there. And it just, now notice over here on this one. It's it hasn't snapped. It's a little tougher, but it will snap if I just touched it a bit, pulled it, it would break right off. But notice this stuff isn't as dry as that one. You leave this out in the air for a day and a half, 2 days in the sun, it's going to, off of this stalk right here, out of the shield, it's going to dry. Or you can parch this. This is actually past Levitical 2:14. This one right here. This is way past Levitical 2:14. So, Leviticus, yeah. Once again, we're looking at Rick here again. And now, here's where we took some barley. Now, this was an experiment. You know your Zadok scale, and you get that barley, the dough in the 8th stage there, and it has the different stages. You can take barley, and we've experimented from 8.3 to 8.7, I think it is, and 8.5, all right? You take that barley, this I think, if I remember, was 8.3, maybe no more than 8.5 anyway. And we dried it out, okay? We planted some of this, watch down here. Let's see if we can go, oh, I won't go there yet, but we'll show it to you. Oh, I don't know if I put that on here. We might have. But anyway, so you put it in a little bowl and you grind it out. So here you have all the little, what do you call it? Stuff that has to be winnowed out of it. You know how you'd shake it up in the air? What there? Well, yeah, they're husk, but there's a name for it and I can't think of it. I'm getting old. I'm 67 now, so. But notice when you, after you filter this and you sieve it, here's what you have is flour. That's nice flour, right? So, but it's not fine flour. Just getting a drink here. So, but these are all the experiments we went through over the years. Now, at this stage right here, 8.3 of that particular year, it grew. Now, grapes are another indicator, as we talked about so many times. Now, these are some of the old grapevines down and through here. A lot of this stuff, unfortunately, has been pulled out for the other grapes. Now, this is taken in the same year, 2 days apart. Here you are down in the Negev. You know, you've got nice grapes coming up there. Here you are up near Jerusalem and Hebron. See the stony soil and the different elevation? Notice your grapes here. They're not even budded. Based on elevation, right? This is very important. So, because there are people who say that you have to get the barley at Jerusalem in around the temple. That's absolutely stupid. And I don't mind saying that. That is so devoid of understanding of growth and understanding of how things were done in Israel because some guy wrote that that's what they used to do. Let me tell you, they only could do that in what you would call an intercalated year. That's the only time they'd be able to do that. And the pattern we've had for the last bunch of years has been 2 normal years, 1 intercalated, 2 normal, 1 intercalated, 2 normal, and I showed you that earlier there. So, and I'm not saying they're stupid. I'm saying it's a stupid precept to follow, okay? Because it has absolutely nothing to do with agricultural principles, nothing to do with climate. It all has to do with somebody people trying to say, it's Jerusalem, it's Jerusalem. Well, Jerusalem's used for some things, but Jerusalem isn't used for others. When it says, didn't say, when you come into Jerusalem, you will harvest the field, right? No, it didn't. What did it say? When you come into the land, the whole thing. That's why the Levites are spread all over. That's why agriculture is all over. That's why the offerings came from all over the country. Whatever your list, first of the first fruits was, that's the first one that made it there. And I'm sure there were a bunch of different guys traveling there at the same time, Levites, with that, okay? My personal understanding. Now, here we are over here. Notice the rocks over on this side right here. Notice the barley. Now, that's all barley there, just so you know. See the head right here coming out? And the anemones here? But this is all on stony ground. You find ground like that, you don't take your samples from that, okay? It's all fake. See how tiny these little stalks are here? These are tiny little, the heads will be bigger than the barley. Okay, and you can see that on another picture up there. But now, contrast this. Here's Angie, and here is Rick. Okay, here is a really nice area. This is really good soil. Look how tall the barley is. Look at these heads here. Look at them. Look at the size of these awns. And it's all starting to do what? It's all starting to bow, right? Barley is a humble grain. It bows to its creator. So do the oats here. See these oats? They're all their heads. See them? These are all dropped, okay? They dropped probably 2 weeks before, 3 weeks before what you see right here, all right? But they dropped, okay? But this is to show you on good soil how tall the barley can get. It's amazing. Now, here's another good idea. Here you have oats right here. These are all dried out in that. Now notice this picture right here. These are on stony ground here. The oats have already dropped, right? Look at the tiny little stalks here in the barley. Look at the head here. The head came up. Look at how thin those stalks are. They're really, really thin. They're not thick. You know what I'm saying? See how thick these things are right here? Those are thick stalks. I wish I could blow it up. You'd see it, but I can't. So, but anyway, here's that. This isn't the same field, but it looks like a forsythia back there. It might be. I'm not sure, but I didn't look at it at the time. But look at the size of these heads. Notice the size of them here and bowing. This is good soil. Okay, but notice back over here, you've got some oats back over here too. So, and here's another example of oats in here. This is something that everything died. This is stony soil right here on this particular little patch right here. Notice the oats are dead and the barley is dead almost completely right now. But notice how tall, how small the stalks are. That's where it's had to grow really, really fast. You get a little short stalk, you know you don't have a lot of water. Okay, and it's a race to see if it matures enough to be able to make it for the cut for the year. Okay, then we have our figs, one of the things that we look for. Here's the culprit right here, the stork. She knows her timing, right? Of course, we have all the scriptures for all that, and that's Jeremiah 8:7. And the swift, and we pointed out some swifts here the last time we were on, and the turtle dove. And remember, we're not talking about laughing doves. They're residents there. There are a couple other doves that are resident here. We're talking about turtle doves, usually the Eurasian, and it's got the band on its neck, okay? Turtle doves have a little reddish hue to them and that, so you can tell the difference between them. But they're a resident anyway. So, and some turtle doves are residents too, but there's particular ones we look for because when they start cooing, you know the spring's there. Of course, that's what scriptures tell you, okay? I shouldn't say spring because that's when winter has changed to summer, okay? There is no spring in the Middle East. Then wheat, talking about it's no indicator. Wheat, domestic wheat has been used to, it's been used and abused. It's designed to do whatever it does real quick. Some of it's got short stalks, some of it doesn't. This is a particular field right here. But anyway, to make a long story short, we don't use wheat. We can use domestic barley as an indicator. We use wheat as an indicator, just the fact that it is a grain, all right? And I don't think I've got the pictures on here for the, I don't. So anyway, of them germinating for the ones we had up above there. So let me get out of this one. All right, let me see what we have here. And of course, again, I've been told that I'm supposed to use the Equinox and all that. I don't use it. You guys, most of you guys have read why I don't use it and everything else, and et cetera, et cetera. And if anyone wants to go over that, we can actually go over some of that. I'll do that kind of quickly if people want to. But people, again, the one individual, you have to use the worldwide clock. My response, what is the worldwide clock? Okay, where are you talking about in London? Where are you, no, the worldwide clock for setting the start of the year. Oh, where did you hear that from? They told me who they heard it from. That answered my question. They're talking about the equator, okay? They're talking about something that is 2,000 miles away, right, from Jerusalem, from Israel. And a magic line that goes through. There's a lot of magic lines. We could talk about a lot of them too. There's a lot of magic lines. Maybe we'll branch off onto that right now because we covered the most of the stuff on locations and what we're looking for and stuff like that. So let's just take a look at it. See, years ago, when reading, and I read where it said, and our Messiah said, the day has 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of night. There's 12 hours in a day, right? That's what it's basically saying. Okay. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why would he use a Roman calendar to bring out what he was talking about? Then I looked at the context he's talking and the time of year he's talking. Then I went back and I checked up what the Greek was for the or a in that particular. It could be a lot of things. It could be this day. And when you look at what day and what proximity he was and where he was, and he was saying that, how close he was to Passover, it's just stunning, okay? He was talking about this right down here. Let's see. No, that ain't what he was talking about. Let's see what we got here. Here we go. He's talking about an equinox, in my understanding and my belief, okay? These are the equinox times, and an equinox is where day and night are the closest they're going to get in terms of time for any location around the world, outside of the equator, on either side of it, all right? So we posted these years ago because there's some people who use this. Believe, that's what I don't know if they still do, but they did then, okay? So if you look for 2019 this year, between March 16th and March 17th, you're going to have the division of 12 hours and 12 hours. So you got 11 hours, 58 minutes, and 50 seconds on this day, based on the Roman calendar. And on the Roman calendar over here, 12 hours and 46 minutes. You can take those 2 days and find out exactly when it is, when it comes in between there, the 12 and the 12. It could be in the morning, it could be whatever. So 6 and 7 in the morning, or maybe even on this one right here. No, it wouldn't be that. It would be probably closer to 8 or 9 or 10 in the morning. But that's in Jerusalem, okay? That they could actually, you knew when that was. That could be because they had little dials and all that, and I don't know, people say they're pagan and everything. That's okay. So that means if we use a watch, maybe that's pagan too, right? But it just, I'm not trying to be facetious. I just, there's sometimes things that are just crazy. But anyway, so there are people, we put this on the site years ago so that people can actually use that, okay? And that's the closest times there, because they had a program worked out where, just like the rabbinical calendar is, each side of the equinox at the equator, if the month falls X amount of days before that, then they intercalate. That's how they do it. They don't do it up early. Now, I have to tell you, they are pretty close. They did a pretty good job, but it's not accurate in every year. But if you had nothing else to go by, that would be a very good rule of thumb, okay? Because they have been, actually, we can look at that right now. Let me see. Because I had to answer the question for them and for a number of other people. Now, the new moon must always be closest to the spring equinox to start the year. Question. No, it doesn't. Because in 2008, right, and in 2011, it wasn't. It started after or earlier than the equinox. You see what I'm saying? On the larger span of time, either way. It's simple to do. You can all do it. I mean, it's just, and in 2005, we had the same thing, okay? And it just, but folks went one way then, and we went another, and that's what people do, you know? So, but anyway, I'm just bringing these up because some people have said, one person challenged me, they said it has always, always, always been the closest new moon to the spring equinox, or excuse me, the equinox, you know what I mean? And it just, and that's not the case. It just isn't based on what we do. And those years were definitive years too. So let's just see, what do we got over here? I don't know what you guys use. This is what we use. It's on the site. For instance, this is 2000. This was put together by, well, actually, Steve put this part together right here. But all the calculations and everything else were put together by Bruce Armstrong down in Australia. Nice guy. It just he's really into this stuff too. So let me just see where we are here. 2011. Keep going. Let's just get down to here, right? Where are we here? 15. Well, no, it's down by the bottom. Where are we here? Oh, 21. So now, let's just say we go and we see and we find where the barley will be Leviticus 2:14 by Passover, right? And I think I think on everyone's scales, that's pretty much what, 34, 33, 34, 35 days from today. Interesting, right? That's over a month of time to still grow. We all have to consider these things, all right? So we still have a month of time left on it. A month, depending upon which day you use, to almost, well, if it falls one way, it would be almost, let's see, it would be 6 weeks. No, 5 weeks. 5 weeks, yep. So, but anyway, so let's just say that's the case. We do that and we go through. That would make next year, just to show you how this all works, that would make next year the end of the 12th month on February, well, the start of the new month would be February 26th, right? First day. So the new month would end on February 25th. Now, I can pretty much categorically say we would never, we'll go. I mean, if that's the case, we would still go. We always have. But it's more of a nice trip rather than anything else, because we're not going to find anything that's going to be Leviticus 2:14 if we were supposed to have Passover starting in the next month. This is not going to happen. It's in the years we've gone like that, it's been like grass. Everything was like grass. You would struggle to find anything that even had a head on it. You see, even coming out of the boot, it was a struggle. So, and we have done those a couple of years, over a few years now. So, but anyway, so that would bring us all the way up over to here. See this here? So if things work out this year where we do that, and of course, if we go early this year, the rabbinical calendar is off this year. It's off a month later. They're not having their new year until April 7th, I think, or something like that. So that would be, once again, a whole month difference, which that's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. So anyway, that would put us next year then back on Thursday, March 26th for the start of the year. So, I mean, that's how you work the, based on whatever, about 131.9 visibility, unless it's just socked right in, you're going to find it, like right up here. See this 98.2 right up here? Probably not visible, but we have seen it at that visibility, just within a 1 point of that visibility. We've seen it at 99. Under absolutely perfect conditions, you can see it. So that's why you have to watch, you see? And it just, and that's why I'm thankful a lot of people do watch. It's a good thing. So myself and Linda, we particularly take it from the Jerusalem region for a number of factors. You all know that. But I don't point a stick in anyone else's eye for going to do it somewhere else in Israel. As a matter of fact, I don't point a stick in somebody's eye for doing it locally anywhere else they are in the world. That's between them and their creator. I mean, we just put information together so that people can see it. If they can use it, that's a wonderful thing. Now, I know we're doing a bit of this in our, we're going to do a little quiz here, and it's called homework. All right, so let's just, this is the article, why I do not use an equinox vernal or autumnal, either one on either side of it at any given time. Now, let's just come back here. Where are we here? Let me see here. Okay, let's just cut this to the quick here. Okay, precision of the North Pole axis. Okay, it takes 25,800 years to complete one cycle. Now, a lot of you guys know. Now, this goes through all the different constellations and everything else in the sky. And there's a lot of people who say that you can use the constellation to determine when Abib is. Really? Okay, that's not what Scripture says. All right, and but if that's what you want to do, that's okay. But let me show you a major flaw. For instance, here's a test. Go back and see what constellations Job said he could see from the location he was in. And you tell me if they're visible from that same location today. Fascinating result. Okay, so but look what we have. Now, this is talking about, I don't know if you'd have to read all this and everything, but here's the imaginary line that makes the imaginary circle up in the sky. This is the what they call the great year, 25,800. Okay, years it takes to do that. That's a long time, but it actually does make that circuit. Polaris will reach the point at which it comes closest to. Let's do here. Look at here's Polaris, right? Closest to aligning with the North Pole axis of the Earth in the year AD 2095. So it's not really there yet, right? In 2,000 years, because of the effects of the Platonic year, and that's where the equator continues, there's a movement at the equator. Each year, all these little measurements are a little farther the other way, which means it's coming out of sync with the spot it was in the year before, very, very slowly, okay? So anyway, you guys can chew on that if you want, but there will be no pole star. Imagine that, right? As there was no pole star 2,000 years ago. Why? Because it's traveling between them. You see, it takes 2,000 years for it to make this circuit right here on this section. All right. So you'll be looking for the North Star, and it isn't there. You'll be looking for certain galaxies. They are not galaxies, but what do they call them? The astronomers use them all. Anyway, they aren't there. But the reason they're up there is, see, it says that the heavens speak to us, right? They're not telling us about our horoscopes or anything else. This is one of the things they're telling us. Now, the Elohim did this. They made this pattern for a reason. This is a beautiful one. It's perfect for the 25,800 years. They did that for a reason with us, with our Earth on an axis, okay? I happen to believe that is going to be corrected when we get to the kingdom, that there's not going to be a tilt in the axis. It's going to be straight up. That's how come you're going to be able to get 30-day months. And why would that be? Because you're facing the moon or facing the sun all the time, right? But there won't be a need for it. But the need for it is for agriculture and that, but there won't be a need for it. But this here will straighten right up. And of course, we've talked about that and shown that in Scripture and Isaiah and that. Even the stars, they aren't the same anymore. No kidding, because now you're up, straight up and down. Okay? That's a big deal. So the sun's hitting it all the way across. See that? That's how that's going to work. You'll have areas that are a little warmer than others, but you're still going to have sun up here. In Alaska, you're not going to have a period of darkness because you're still going to be getting it as you rotate around. So anyway, that's getting off subject a bit here, but so anyway, that's cutting it to the chase a lot about why I don't use an equator or anything like that. And of course, then the scriptures tell you, don't they? I mean, what does it tell us? Let me grab. I do not believe the focal point for the Elohim for setting a calendar is in 2,000 miles away to the south of the equator, right? You guys all know where we're going. We did this a long time ago. Deuteronomy. Let me just pull this up here. I got my old Bible, and this one's really pretty frail here. I should use the JP Green, but I'm not going to. Just gets the point across. Deuteronomy 11, verses 10 through, let's say, 12. All right? For the land which you go to possess is not like the land of Egypt, from which you have come, where you sowed your seed and watered it by foot as a vegetable garden. Now, people say to me, well, why don't you use what's in Egypt? Well, because I was just told I'm not going to be using that because it's an entirely different system of things maturing and everything. You have to water it. Okay? You're the one who makes the determination on when that's going to come about. Okay? So, but the land which you cross over to possess is a land of hills and valleys. That certainly isn't Egypt, is it? Not where they were anyway. Mm-hmm. Which drinks water from the rain of heaven. And who gives that water? Who makes it happen? Who holds it up? Who lets it go? You know? A land for which Jehovah, your God, your Elohim cares. The eyes of Jehovah, your Elohim, are always on it, from the beginning of the year to the very end of the year. Now, I'm a simpleton, but that just told me his year is based right there, not 2,000 miles away, right? And he ties that into what? Things growing, And of course, we go through all the other scriptures, and you guys know them all about all the other signs of the spring. I shouldn't say spring, I should say winter to summer, okay? Because spring is a concept in the northern and southern hemispheres. And if you say spring, oh, it's spring, Passover in the spring. Well, it certainly isn't Passover in the spring for people in Australia, is it? No, not at all. You would be at the fall down there, you see? So just little things, but they are kind of important things as far as I'm concerned. So, but anyway, I think that's pretty much it as far as what I wanted to show today, and just try to get as much information out to folks so that they can use it in your own understanding of how things are done. Evaluate things as they come in. You make the determination. Nobody else makes it for you, okay? And you do that in conjunction with your head, right? Yeah. So, and it just, Linda, who's your head, dear? Yes, my lord. Did you hear that? You'll never hear it again, she says. So anyway, so we'll kick out of here. All right, and then we'll go back onto you. Stop share. There we go. All right. So there we are. And it's only 2:51. Imagine that. No laughing.
Okay. Do you want me to unmute or let people unmute, or do you want to take questions with raised hands, or?
I can do questions or that, and then we'll unmute and let everybody just chat and talk. I mean, it's not that often we all get together, right?
Okay. So I'm going to just make it so if someone wants to talk or ask.
Oh, I've got one other thing. Another question came up. People have been saying, well, why won't you accept funds for the search, for the inspections? Well, we don't. We never have. We never will. Sometimes people try to sneak them in, but sometimes we don't cash those checks. And it just, it's very simple. Part of our training for the becoming future priests is knowing how to administer tithes. Linda and I have tithed for all of our called life. And of course, now that tapers off somewhat because, excuse me, because we're retired now, but we still have income that comes in, and we have been able to save tithes that we've kept for years and years and years, which should carry us through the end of our life, hopefully. And it just, but you never know. Things happen, banks collapse and everything else. So, but we've tried to plan it out. So we have our own funds to do that. So not to be offensive, but so don't even bother asking me if you can contribute, because you can't. Okay, I don't want to see it, and it just I don't need it. We would do this regardless of anyone else did it. We would still do it. That's what we would. That's our relationship with our Father, with the Father, and with our Savior. It's that simple. That's our relationship. So anyway, so we're always we'll post the information as long as we can and stuff like that, and we're here to ask questions at the same time, any time of the year, on anything pertaining to it. So, but I just had to get that out because there's people who actually get upset because we won't accept a funds from them. I understand your heart, but I don't need it. You know what I mean? And I don't want to take something that if I needed it, I'd tell you. It's that simple, and it just, but I don't, because we have tithe, and we still tithe on other things that are coming in. So we don't have a shortage for that. So, and of course, I'm not promoting everyone has to tithe, but that's between you and your creators, but you and Father and our Savior. But at the same time, we actually keep two tithes. We always kept a first, and we always kept a second. For a while, we kept a third, and a lot of you guys know all about that and how that was absolutely abused and squandered. Didn't matter. We were doing what was in our heart was right, so we don't care, But nobody takes it from us anymore. We're the ones who administer it. So we administer our first tithe, and our second tithe is always saved for being able to travel for the feast and to help other people travel who are not in as good a position as we might be in that. So that's how that works. So Okay, I'll shut up.
Okay, anyone, you can unmute yourself if you want to talk or have a question.
Hey, Bridget, you may as well stop recording.